Welcome to Daddy's Money Garage. Did you miss us? Probably not. It's okay, I wouldn't miss us either. This is gonna be the most honest video that we've ever made, and
that doesn't sound right.
That doesn't sound right. What I mean is we're going to answer two major questions that I've seen regarding the Junkyard jet over the course of the build. What do you think those questions are, John?
Why are there 4 doors?
That is definitely one of them we've gotten a lot.
A lot.
I don't understand why. The two questions I see a lot of are, how much did it cost? In more ways than one, people are asking that question. And what is actually in the car? We never actually did like a build breakdown or anything like that, like specifying what was going in as we were building it. So why not just get two birds stoned at once and answer these questions? So over the course of building this car, we had one sponsor. This was our sponsor, my beautiful Omega wallet. It cost an absurd amount of money and they served me champagne when I bought it. Disclaimer, of course, I don't remember off the top of my head how much everything cost, but I have every receipt for what we've bought that I have receipts for. Does that make sense?
There's a lot of miscellaneous that we're not wasting paper, you know?
This is at least a minimum of what it costs to build this car. If for some reason you wanted to replicate this thing, or maybe you've been one of the many people that have looked at an old blown out derelict car and thought that should be a race car, I guess we'll just get straight into it. Where should we start? I guess the engine.
I mean, you already opened the hood, so.
Oh yeah, I did. First things first, a common misconception. This engine did go to a machine shop. Obviously, I'm not gonna be able to show every receipt because they have my phone number on them, and that led to a really interesting Christmas morning.
You got lots of grump lumps and pictures of Dick Landy on the morning, huh?
It was something. This is the machine shop. This is just, proof that it did go. So, we actually did it right. It got magnafluxed. It got bored 30 over. It got cleaned. It got it got blocked, got decked. The heads were milled 15, the crank got polished, everything, we got new pistons put on the rods with ARP hardware, all this good stuff came up to a whopping $1,300. But this engine came from a junkyard, so it's probably worth the money to just go ahead and do that to make sure that the thing's even going to be viable if you're using a junkyard engine, which we did. This engine came out of a 1995 Dodge Ram. It's a 360 Magnum. We went with a 360 Magnum because at the time we thought that it was the cheapest way to get a roller cam.
Boy, we learned a lesson.
Boy, we learned a lot, because it's not. Oh God, it is not. It is ridiculously expensive to build a Magnum, starting from the top down. A Summit Air Cleaner 14x5, and that is connected to a Holley Track Warrior 750. It's a really nice race carburetor, sitting on top of an Indy intake that had been sent to Induction Solutions to have direct port nitrous installed. That was actually donated to us by Travis at Travis's Mopar Garage, and that guy's the most generous person on the planet.
Dude's legit. Proform
valve covers, their reproduction direct connections. If they were real direct connection valve covers, I imagine they cost like $9 grand, because that's just how Mopar people are. Under the valve cover, stock size valves. We just replaced the exhaust valves, but we had to use a Hughes valve spring conversion kit to run a higher than 500 lift cam. The heads are stock. They've been heavily ported by John. How long did you spend on that?
Too many hours, like probably 20 plus in each head.
It has a set of Cometic head gaskets. We had to change those up because we had it bored. We upped the gaskets at the same time to handle nitrous, and that's what this whole engine was built around. It was being able to run nitrous and drive on the street and not be a complete disaster.
And survive.
Yeah, and that's where the high price tag is going to come from later on, when I total all this up, and then my sunny demeanor will fade because it's absurd. Stock rockers though, because Magnum engines are already 1:6 ratio rockers, so we just left them how they were. However, when we had the cam that came from Camcraft put in, the factory push rods were too short, so we had to upgrade to a set of Trick Flow push rods. And if you're wondering why we use Trick Flow, it's because that was the only one in the measurement that we needed.
Literally, there was nothing else available or in stock.
They were $200 for push rods. Stock roller lifters. Below those valves is a set of Icon 30 over forged aluminum pistons with a set of Speed Pro Hellfire rings. Forged pistons and Hellfire rings, again, for nitrous. If you're gonna, you know, be serious about building a nitrous engine, you want the parts that will handle the nitrous. The ductile iron Speed Pro rings, however, I've heard that they wear more on cylinder walls, so, you know, just trade off what you want. Stock rods, because the factory rods in a Magnum are forged, so that was already good. Stock crank. Every single bearing inside of this engine is Speed Pro tri-metal race bearings. That was not cheap either. Then below that is a milling high volume oil pump with a Mylodon windage tray and Canton Racing oil pan, the 7 quarts, Canton Racing oil pickup. Every single bolt inside of this engine is ARP. You know, that's expensive as hell too, but like I said, wanted to hold up, wanted to stay strong. As far as what else remains on the outside, it's got a flow cooler, high flow water pump, and the cooling system also utilizes an AFCO Racing radiator, Chevy design, because it holds more coolant and it's a cross flow, so it's just a better design. And the fans are cold case. They're like 400 CFM fans.
I think they're way more than that.
I don't know. I just know that idling in traffic, it doesn't warm up enough to trigger the thermostat. I guess we did pretty good in that department.
Yeah, I mean, they pull 10 amps a piece.
Yeah. As far as a charging system, stock alternator off of the 95 Ram. We just kind of made that work by wiring it up like a 70s car. The distributor is a Mallory YL dual point because I'm an orangutan and I only understand points. And I would have thrown a fit if electronic ignition ended up on this car. I guess that's most of the engine. I don't know if I forgot anything. I don't even know how much everything costs. It all just kind of snowballed. Like I said, if you're going to take a car that's a derelict and make it into a race car, it just snowballs.
You're gonna get nickel and dime to death pretty quick.
Yeah, the Canton Racing catch can, you need that for NHRA. That's another thing that I should mention too. This car was built for NHRA specifications, so everything is SFI approved, everything is compliant with what they want in a race car, because we wanted to take it to like drag week and stuff, so we had to get what we needed to get. Probably the only cheap thing in this engine bay is this $20 Excel Super Coil that I picked up at Mo Party last year. Still has a $20 sticker on it. Fuel pressure regulator, because our pump is way too strong for a carburetor, so we had to, you know, dumb it down a bit because you want to have fuel for when you hit the nitrous.
You got to be able to adjust that stuff.
Yeah, this is adjustable. This is an Aeromotive. This is nice. The only part that we've had fail on this car is the fuel pressure regulator and the idler arm that I broke. But that's not the idler arm's fault, that's mine.
No, yeah, you're right.
So I guess we did pretty good in building the engine. Do we just go from the front back then? We go
sure, yeah, let's just do that.
This car is a 4-speed, so it's got a flywheel and a clutch. So it has a McLeod, I don't know how you pronounce it, MCLEOD, McLeod. Aluminum flywheel, SFI approved so that it doesn't explode and take your leg with it. It has a Ram 3-finger Borgenbeck clutch capable of handling 600 horsepower because we figure that's probably the most that it'll make, but we don't know because it hasn't been on a dyno yet.
You really want to go on a dyno.
It's getting on a dyno. And those two things are encased in a Lakewood bell housing, you know, the scatter shield.
Yeah.
And it's got the block saver plate. Again, because the NHRA requires that if you have a stick shift car. The single most expensive part in the entire build, I think, was the clutch. Like, for one thing, the clutch, that was like $500, $600.
So just remember that scatter shield was like $450.
Yeah, it was, and they don't make it anymore. The clutch, the flywheel, and the bell housing total up to over $1,000. You still want to build a derelict car?
Build an automatic.
Build an automatic.
Just use a 727.
Yeah, it's great. These headers were free, though. This was donated. I'm trying to make a point to mention what's donated as I go. The headers, the intake, those were donated. The radiator, original one was donated, but it failed and we had to replace it. But the fans were donated by the same guy. The Transdapt engine mount conversion kit was donated.
That is for swapping a V8 onto a 6-cylinder K-frame.
Yeah, that's needed if you're going to do it with a car that originally was a Saint 6. At least in a Chrysler. Now that we're done talking about the engine, because that's what a lot of people are going to be interested in, the first thing that we did to this car was rebuild the front end. And essentially that entailed ball joints and like tie rod ends and bushings because everything was rotten.
We replaced every bit of rubber in the car.
Every single bit of rubber has been replaced with polyurethane bushings, so they'll just never wear out, but they squeak like hell and they ride like garbage. Yeah, we did lube them up. You're supposed to lube them up before you put them in, and that kind of helps. So, yeah. And then the second thing we did is a thing that was really controversial for a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Willwood brakes. I don't know if you can see them through the holes.
You can see the spindle.
Let me explain a couple reasons why we did this. This car was originally a slant 6, so it had small bolt pattern wheels. They're 5x4. You can't get wheels for that bolt pattern. We also wanted to improve the brakes because we're about to, you know, this thing's getting driven on the street. We have no idea what it's going to end up as, so we just wanted to be prepared. So converted to disc brakes. You could go with getting like a factory conversion kit and then have brakes from like the 70s, like single piston, whatever, and then you have to change the ball joints and everything else. But what we ended up doing was a Willwood conversion, which just fit on the factory small spindles and converted it to big bolt pattern at the same time, and gave us 4 piston calipers on each side that just work awesome. And that was like $800.
Yeah, all in, like there's
Yeah,
there's a company that sells a conversion for these, so you can use like Cadillac Seville calipers and some other rotor and whatever, and
they cost the same.
Yeah, it was pretty much the same.
Just get the Willwood kit. You'll get better brakes. And people say they have problems with them. I imagine those people didn't read the instructions, because I had this done in a day and have had no problem with it at all. Okay.
Also, that let us use these nice fancy wheels that Travis at Travis Mopar Garage gave us.
Yeah, because Travis donated those Weld drag lights. Like I said, Travis is a super generous, nice guy. We can't thank him enough.
He's just the man.
Also, talking about the brakes, we converted to dual master cylinder, and every single line is stainless steel. That came from inline too. You can get that kit. That's actually not terribly expensive. It was like, I don't know, $300, somewhere around there. Definitely worth it. It was super easy. Jim Bennett also donated a lot of stuff. You know what one of the biggest things he donated was?
That transmission.
The 833 transmission. You know what the big problem was?
It's out of the wrong car.
It's out of a B-body.
Yeah.
If you work on Mopars, then you know that a B-body transmission will not fit into an A-body very easily or at all without major conversion. I would highly recommend that if you're going to, for some reason, swap to a stick shift from an automatic, just get the A-body transmission. Because we had to hack up the cross member and fix it and then figure out a way to do it. But either way, it happened. Actuating that transmission is a Hurst Competition Series shifter that is just sold under Mr. Gasket. So that was made in like the 80s. I got that from eBay with the bracket for like, I don't know, $250, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And it was missing its shift handle, and it's in like some weird thread pattern of like 12-13, so I had to find an adapter for it, and it was odd.
Ace Hardware came to the rescue though, right?
No, dude, I found that on eBay too.
You had to get that on
Yeah,
eBay?
I found it on eBay too. Everything's built off of eBay and Summit Racing. I guess since we're in the interior now talking about the shifter, we might as well just talk about the interior.
Sure.
These gauges are autometer. They're all new production. Every single one that can be mechanical is mechanical with that dash panel, because the original panel doesn't let you run but like, what, 2 gauges or so?
Yeah, and you got to use the factory speedometer, which I don't even know was it in the car?
Yeah, it was. It just was non-applicable. That was $1,000. This is where cost comes into efficiency. How much is your time worth? That electrical panel controls every single bit of the car's systems, and John has that wired up beautifully. That was like $180, but that saved us, God, probably days.
It was like
figuring out where we're gonna.
It was like 140, but yeah.
It saved us so much time. This wheel was free because this came out of my Plymouth.
Nice.
So that worked out. We gutted the steering column. We rhino lined the interior because we figure that if it ever gets dirty, then we'll just hose it out. These seats are, these people didn't like these seats either, but we love them. These are Corbos. These are extremely comfortable. You got to take into the logic, though, that we planned on taking this car to drag week originally, and you'd be riding in the car for 1,000 miles, and that is way more comfortable than an aluminum bucket, and they were only like $400 pop. What's it worth to you? The racing harnesses are also Corbo, because I'm not going to mismatch them. That just doesn't seem right.
It's just tacky.
It's just tacky.
It's like smoking with the windows up.
Yeah, it's like smoking with the windows up. This roll cage, S&W Performance out of Pennsylvania. They make this. This is a pre-made kit. All you gotta do is just weld it together. Do we know how to weld, John?
No.
Absolutely not. You know who did this? Mopar Al. Back firewall is actually a kitchen firewall that you pulled out. That's stainless steel.
That came out of a bar.
You know how much that cost us? Nothing. It cost nothing. So that's why we used it, because we were already this deep into it. Let's just, you know, use stuff that's just laying around. The car does have subframe connectors.
Those were for a different car, and we had to cut them down and adapt them.
Twice.
The
drive shaft, there's a bit of weirdness with the drive shaft. We had the drive shaft, but it just disappeared somewhere. I don't even know where it is. This one is a B-body drive shaft that was cut down to A-body length and then just made to work. And we had to get a new yoke for it and adapt it in like 2 different ways to fit the rear end, which is a old Chrysler, I don't know what case it is because the numbers are weird, but it's a 410 rear gear with a Detroit locker. A lot of people notice that when the car does a burnout, if you're turning or going at any kind of angle, it only spins one tire. It's designed to do that. It only locks them both if you're going straight. So it's just, I'm sure those comments will still pop up after I explain that, though.
All else fails, you can just go back to the first burnout video in the parking lot, because
yeah, she lights them both up.
it does.
It's not broken. It's just how it functions.
That was some learning curve too, because we had no idea what that was.
Yeah, we had no idea what that was until we researched it. It's like, oh, that's what it's supposed to do. That makes sense, because if it just locked all the time, you just spin tires trying to turn. Mickey Thompson tires, front and rear. That was like $1,000. That's fun. You know, the thing is about this sticker is that I thought that when we started this project that this is going to be how I feel about the car, but that's not true at all. Fuel cell given to us by Jim Bennett as well. An Optima battery that, you know how much an Optima battery is, with the box, and a nitrous bottle that has yet to be filled up because we are too lazy to activate the nitrous system.
Or finish installing everything.
All we gotta do is make 2 lines and hook up a purge valve. And
I have the lines, I just don't want to do it because it sucks.
It's 4 AN, it's a total nightmare. That's right, too. Every single line in this car, minus the main line that connects from the front to the back, is AN line.
So yeah, we went from AN from the fuel cell to the pump, from the pump to the hard line we ran, and then all the way up, and then it's AN again once it leaves the hard line.
Yeah.
There was a lot of fittings.
Yeah. I did not know how much AN line or fitting cost until we did this.
Here's a hint. Call it $8 a piece.
That's not too far off from the truth. We spent hundreds on fittings. The axle tube is an A-body, you know, proper length, so we didn't have to do anything with that.
Yeah, that came from Jim too.
That came from Jim Bennett. The super stock springs came from Jim Bennett. It also has custom rear axles because we wanted to run bigger rear drum brakes. So we had Dr. Diff up in Montana cut us some custom axles that have A-body length but B-body flanges so we could fit the 11-inch rear drum brakes.
And we had to order those because nobody had them in stock, so they had to make them for us.
Yeah, that was
an extra $150 just to have them made versus buying them off the shelf.
Are you kidding me? Those axles were like $500.
I know. And all the wiring. And...
Oh, that's right. Here, I'll let you talk about that. Give me the camera.
Do you even want... Oh boy.
You're the one that wired this whole thing. So you know exactly what's in it.
Yeah.
So what kind of wiring did you use?
Automotive grade stuff from Harbor Freight for some stuff. The main power wires I ran from the battery, ran 1/0 all the way from the back of the car to the front of the car. That feeds into the starter, and then
that resulted in like no voltage drop.
Almost, yeah, it's great. We've got 1/0 ground. There's 2 of them up here on the engine to the chassis.
Yeah, there's 1 ground there and there's 1 ground there,
just to make sure that we don't have any problems. The rest of it's all pretty car.
Yeah. So to get this alternator, which is off of a 95 Ram, to work with how our setup was, because the 95 Ram, its voltage regulator is in the computer.
Yeah.
Well, there's no computer here, so it had to be wired up like a 1970s Chrysler with a 2-post voltage regulator. I can't explain how it works, but it works perfect.
I think the wiring diagram was for like a 74 Dart or something.
Something like that. But point being, we have a 146 amp alternator, or 26, or either way.
The number changes every time you say it.
Yeah, I know, but either way, it's a completely overpowered alternator to run like the ignition and lights.
And fans.
And fans.
So like...
That's it. And the fuel pump.
I did everything as car as possible. So like the way it's set up in the car is you've got a switch, turn the car on. And then you've got your control panel to control everything else. Works good. And like the fans, those are run off of a relay, so that way you got power coming right from here. Same deal with the headlights, same deal with the fuel pump. So that way it's just run a wire and you got a switch on the other end.
Yeah.
Works real good.
The point of this is that if you're going to take a derelict car that's sitting in the middle of nowhere, just rotting away, you have pretty much no idea what you're going to be in for if you've never done this before. The main argument that I know a lot of people are going to say when we total up these invoices in a minute is I could have bought a car for that. And
yeah,
you probably could have.
You're right.
If that's the case, then this kind of project just isn't for you. We wanted to prove to ourselves that it could be done. And, you know, not to brag or anything, but we did it. It's still driving. It's still good. We drive it. We have no idea how to handle it.
No.
But we did it. And if 3 people that have never built a race car before can do it, then likely you can too, if you're willing to spend the money like we did.
And a lot of time.
An absolute atrocious amount of time. I put off a wedding for this.
There were 3 of us most of the time, 1 to 2 days a week, every week for 13 and a half months.
Yeah.
Is one person tackling this? Probably get it done in like 3 years.
Yeah.
Unless that's all you want to do.
Yeah. Here's the next point of this. Okay, that's question number 1 answered, I think, right? Does that cover everything? If you have anything that I missed, just...
We'll do a pinned comment or something.
Like, do you want to know about the headlights or something? Like, they're factory. Who cares? We have all these invoices that I can total up, and we can figure out exactly the minimum that was spent on this. Are you ready to take that in, John?
Not really, because I know there's a lot of the several $100s of miscellanea
that's just not in there.
That's just not accounted for.
Yeah, we'll have to operate with a margin here.
All of the O'Reilly's runs.
Oh god. Oh god.
400 cans of Rust-Oleum because the nozzles keep getting clogged.
Oh my god.
I still want to fight whoever it is at Rust-Oleum designed those nozzles.
Let's break out a calculator. Let's total it up.
Owie.
So we did what nobody ever does when they build a project car.
What you should not do.
You should never do.
Don't do it.
Don't ever do it. We totaled everything up. Everything we have documented receipts for, and the numbers are in. We know how much the donated parts are worth, about. And because, you know, we can research, so, I mean, just look it up. The total amount of our own money that we invested over the course of a year was $20,058.
That's accounting for like $2,000, $2,500 in MISC that we don't like have receipts for.
Yeah, like trips to O'Reilly's and stuff that we just didn't have receipts for. So realistically, what we have documented is about 18 grand.
Yeah.
So that's fair. The value of the car, with all of the going rate of parts that were donated to us, $27,578. If you were to have bought everything and not paid for the car, you'd be in at $27,500. And we still haven't hooked up the nitrous yet.
We have all of that stuff at least, I think.
Yeah, we do. That's paid for. We don't have to spend any more money. We're good.
Yeah, right.
We're good. The main thing is it worth it to take a junk derelict car and put the money into it to make it a race car, or to just buy a race car that's already ready to go? I mean, depending on what you're doing, it kind of evens out.
It does. But there's a lot of people out there that don't have 7 or 8 grand just to buy a roller that needs a heart transplant, you know?
That's fair. And plus, for that money, this meets NHRA spec. Like, it's fine. It can go to drag week. It can go do all that. It's up to code. And we can say that we did it. I think that means more than any dollar amount you can put on it. This was our blood, sweat, and tears for a year. And it's become a treasure. And I throw things at it when I get frustrated, because I don't have to care about this paint or the bodywork or anything, really. So that's nice. Does that answer people's questions?
I hope so. It took a
Do you
long
think
time
it
to do
does?
this.
It took forever. This is like the 4th time we've had to shoot this video because people keep coming because we don't have a shop. Nice backdrop though. Are you ready to go home?
I'm been ready to go home. My feet are killing me, bro.
Like and subscribe because we need money to recoup our investment.
And we gotta be able to afford everything else that's broken around us.
Yeah, because this is the one vehicle that's not got something broken on it. But it's a terrible thing to drive to work.
Yeah.
So like and subscribe so that I can not have to rely on this at some point. And John can buy a new car. Catch you in the next one.
We'll see y'all.